the Within Orb podcast. Come get Within Orb. Welcome to another episode of Within Orb, and today we're going to take a dip in the Niagara and head out to the Niagara, Ontario region to speak with Michelle Brisebois. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Hello. It's fabulous to be here.
So fabulous to have you. And you are someone who has been with CAELi pretty much since the beginning in the Leaps and Bounds course, and it's been so amazing growing with you as an astrologer, and it's awesome to have you now in the hot seat, and I get to ask you, what was your first astrology book?
My first astrology book was purchased in 1979 when I was 16, my babysitting money. It's actually a tarot book, but it had a lot of astrology in it called Jewels of the Wise, about the major arcana. So it gave me a sense as to how the archetypes worked with the various astrological components.
That's amazing.
And then at that same time, I purchased Love Signs by Derek and Julia Parker, which I was looking at it last night. It was written in 1974, so it was only 5 years old when I bought it for $6.95 Canadian.
Wow.
And it's now worth, apparently, I looked on Amazon, $44. So Jen, you're sitting on a gold mine there.
There it is. There it is. And you know what? In this book with the Derek and Julia Parker Love Signs, if you look inside it, there's all of these like really lascivious illustrations and assumptions and cartoons, and it's almost like the joy of sex meets astrology.
It was very 70s. And the thing, though, about that book that really takes it to a new level is the charts in the back that let you figure out what your ascendant is. And that was the first time, because the barriers to entry in 1978 for a 16-year-old were insurmountable. I couldn't afford to get a chart done. There was no Amazon. There were no YouTube. So being able to learn astrology, you had to pay someone or have someone do it. And so I had to wait for that. And so tarot was easier. And I studied with a tarot master at age 16, and she taught us the decans and everything. But yeah, that chart in the back allowed me to put a ruler across and figure it out. So
it's amazing that Parkers were able to include so many ephemerides and resources in their coffee table books that were appealing to the masses. And yet inside, it was like a Trojan horse. There was this moment of, but you can do it. Here you go. Here's the table. Here's the data.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It was a really great start at a young age.
Very cool. Okay. Well, another amazing thing I love about the work that you do in the world is that you help people market wine. And that's just such a cool facet of like, my head's in the stars all the time. And like, you're thinking about like vintages and working with all of these amazing people who produce the things that we love to enjoy in our free time. So, like how do you bridge the world between astrology land and like the professional world of wine marketing?
There's actually a lot of similarities. I remember we launched a brand once that we did a lot of branding around moon. We had a brand called Copper Moon. There were stories about vintners that would sleep in the vineyard and commune with the moon. And so there's already, in terms of winemaking, this understanding of terroir and how the world around us impacts our human experience. And I teach at Niagara College. I teach winemaking students marketing. And I think there are a lot of synergies. And when I look at my chart, it was after I worked in the wine industry that I really started to understand more about astrology, went back to it later in my life and learned more. I got a second house Neptune. I've got a Venus Bacchus asteroid right on top of my Venus. And there's just all kinds of markers in my chart that say this is where I was headed. I find career and life path really fascinating.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, well, it's time to give you a break from all that and stick you out on some deserted island somewhere. And you have your ephemeris. What 3 books will you put in your bag?
I want you to know that this is my dream come true. The idea that I would be sequestered somewhere where no one could bother me really appeals to me with my favorite books. So I picked 3 books that I'm currently obsessed with and reading when I can, but I'd really love time to just totally immerse in. And so the first one I had was Progressions by Robert Blaschke, which I believe is one that you edited and released through Revelore.
Yes, yes, that is a new re-release of a very classic book, one of the classic textbooks on progressions by Robert Blaschke.
Yeah, it's just, I'm really enjoying it. It's got all the theory in there. His writing's very approachable. And it's the type of thing you want to read a little bit, go back, look at some charts, so it's not the type of thing where you just sit down and read cover to cover. You've got to interact with it. And I'm really
Absolutely.
enjoying that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that book will take you a while to get truly in your bones. And once you get it there and you watch it unfold, the mysteries of time,
Yeah.
the time keys, like your astrology will be permanently changed after that.
Yeah, it's amazing. And that's one of the things that brought me back to astrology is after I left my career, I was doing a timeline just as a career exercise. And I suddenly went, there's a pattern to this, like a definite pattern to certain things happening at 4-year intervals or 7-year intervals. And so, yeah, he does a really good job of diving into all of those techniques and
Right,
highly
yeah.
recommend it.
And integrating the link, like there's a mystical quality to it that when I first encountered his work, it was a little off-putting. And then once you realize what he's addressing in terms of applying it to yourself and seeing what happens in the
Yeah.
charts and the links between them, it's almost astonishing. You're just like, oh, that's why the mystical stuff is there. Like, it's not a joke and it's not some kind of superfluous thing. Like, there is actually mathematical, mystical interplay.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So that's definitely one I'd take. The second one I had on my list was Predictive Astrology by Michele Adler. Yeah, again, she just a really great gallop through just about everything. and so it's really well laid out so that you can cross-reference not only by the technique, but by topic. So, like what sorts of things might you want to look at if you're consulting on career or relationships? And again, another really approachable writing style.
So, in this book, does she teach you the technique as well?
Yes, and defines it. And so I think it was written in 2004. To prep for this, I was on her website the other night, just kind of, so she still has a website. Again, just she goes through tertiary, she goes through the progress chart and has a long astrological career herself. So she's sharing what she's learned. So it's again really juicy.
Very cool. Imagine stepping into a room of 5,000 astrology books, turning a corner and stepping into a room of 2,000 more. The Celestial Arts Education Library is every astrologer's dream, and it can be yours. I invite you to come support CAELi before you can visit physically. Your support will mean the creation of 52 new episodes of Within Orb next year, 4 issues of the CAELi Review, our inaugural journal, and countless book talks, events, classes for our community. Visit our website, www.caeli.institute/support, to select your level of care. Please help support CAELi into the future, our future, so that we may study the future together. Thank you for listening. Please enjoy the rest of the show.
And then the last one I had, well, semi-last one, because I also I have one extra one to sneak in.
Hey.
Being renegade already. The Wheel of Life or Scientific Astrology. So that's the title. So it says several volumes pulled together. It looked like it was written in about 1926. So it's an oldie and it is a heavy book. So I'm assuming I'm kind of like Star Trek beamed to the island, not actually.
We're gonna have to airlift
traveling.
you in because this book is
exactly.
so big.
They won't. I might have to leave the book behind, but he looks at specific degrees, and he has it. There's the bit on health, there's the bit on relate, but I really love looking at the career section. And so, because it was written so long ago, one of the careers he listed was Milner.
Ooh.
And that perked my ears because, as you know, because I'm talking all the time about hat making, it was 2023 when I became obsessed with learning how to make hats. And I took a week-long course, and he specifically highlights the axis of Virgo Pisces, like 7 to 10 degrees, as one for Milner's. Well, sure enough, my progressed midheaven was right at 10 degrees on my natal Pluto, of Virgo, right when I started doing it. So I just was, the wine, there was one for a wine merchant. So I looked that one up. It's right on my Venus. He highlights the late degrees of Aquarius. So
Wow.
that's one that's really fun. It's not an easy read by any means, but if you want to look at those specific degrees, that's a fun one. And then because it's so heavy, I highly recommend anyone traveling this summer, anywhere where you want to take bang for buck and pack light, CAELi reviews, because they are. I was looking at the ones I have the other night and thinking, man, if you're backpacking or whatever, you want to throw a few of these in because they're just so dense with information for such a tiny little light book. So that would be the more practical thing to take to an island.
Yeah, yeah. The CAELi Review is our journal, edited by Camm Cassidy, and we try to make them nutrient dense.
Oh, yeah. Just every time I pick it up, there's another article that calls to me. So, and you get so much. And so, such a tiny book.
Absolutely. So this Wemyss book from the 20s, how much does he reference traditional sources versus maybe what we would consider more modern sources? Like,
He doesn't, from what I can see, he will occasionally reference Ptolemy or some of the others, but it's very renegade stuff. Like even in terms of the chart rulers, he's looking more at some asteroids as ruling certain signs. So it's very different from anything I've ever read. But just again, taking some quick looks at people I knew in different careers and whatnot, you kind of look at it and go, wow, that checks. Like even one of the careers was barber. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And it's this degree of my sun sign. My maiden name was Barber.
whoa,
Yeah, so I just in that when I was looking at myself, I was saying, well, this really checks out. So even the font is kind of weird. The copy I have, it's larger and he uses a lot of symbols, so it's not an easy read, but great desert island stuff because you'd have time to kind of dive into it.
yeah, absolutely. And does it have that old book smell? You know, the one.
No, I mean the copy I have, I think I just bought on Amazon, so it's
Okay.
paperback, but it weighs about 2 pounds, three
Oh my
pounds.
gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that. Yeah. You got to do that'll be your gym. That can be your fort. There's a lot of things you can do with
Exactly.
these
Your
bigger
pillow.
books.
Yeah, yeah.
You can hide under it to shield yourself from predators.
Yeah.
Anyway, very cool. So it sounds like a lot of the books that you're taking have this kind of divination based moment in the Maurice one, but also then you're interested in prediction. Like with progressions, you're going to go into the future on different time keys. And then Michelle comes in with her book on predictive astrology and gives you these other tools to add to the mix. So you're like looking at the future.
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day because my first tarot class, I'm 16 and I want to tell the future. And the instructor, who's a tarot master named Marcia Messino, she's written a couple books, much beloved books. She looked at me and she said, well, sure, you can predict your future, but isn't it better to use these tools to create your future? So right from jump, was, I guess, I was taught that it's about participating with our charts, with the astrology. And so I see these books as a way of knowing what's coming around so that we can do the work to get ready and make the most of it. And it's really where free will meets. It's like if the divine is the current running through your walls, the electrical, and the chart is the socket, then you can use tarot, magic, and I consider tarot a form of magic. They're just talismans that, someone else created. We can use different ways to plug into that current, but the chart is the socket and lets us access it.
When you're talking to people about career, do you use these books to help onboard them or give them that sense of like, here's your palette you can paint with?
Yeah, what I find with career is inevitably people are already feeling that they're feeling it and they know it. And, they'll say to me, one gal worked in an architect firm and she had come about relationships and she had a seventh house Mars and a lot of 12th house energy. And I'm looking at the Mars thinking, how can we use career to give that Mars something to do besides wrecking her love life? Because she was with all these, very Marsy men. And she suddenly said, oh, by the way, I'm in school to be a nurse. So I said, have you ever thought of being an emergency room nurse? And she said, oh my God, one of my teachers pulled me aside last week and said she thought I'd make a great emergency room nurse. So there's that, or the woman that worked at the school that had a packed eighth house, and I was trying to figure out how to broach that with her. And she suddenly leans into the screen and says, what I really want to be is a death doula. and and you just it just comes,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
just sit back and say, okay, let's talk about that because you're feeling it and it's there. So a lot of times they'll say something, I'm already looking at it and it just naturally
Yeah.
happens.
I have that experience too, where it's almost as if the client's asking to see if there's some confirmation in the chart of the inkling that
Yeah.
they're doing a thing, maybe because society says this is what you're supposed to do, or it's a secure job, or it's some kind of, easier path than to leap into the non-existent vocation that's actually yours to grab.
Yeah. 100%. I think we feel the gravitational pull of our charts and we naturally want to go there. So most people, they're just walking away feeling great because they got a little more context around what they were already sensing.
Yeah, yeah, I love that moment of spark for them when they realize, like, oh, this thing that I thought was just a wild hair is actually in my chart. And it's like, not only is it in your chart, but you better start doing it now because that's where the money's at,
100%, and I find it's a lot of women I work with, those asteroid goddesses will really point to career, really quite profoundly point to a former boss of mine. We worked in the wine industry and she has a Ceres sun conjunction. And I thought, well, that checks. I mean, harvest, grapes, a goddess of the harvest. And then suddenly, halfway through the consult, I looked at her and I said, because I'm thinking she used to work for Quaker Cereal. She
Mm.
was like quite high up in the company. And I said to her, what was your title at Quaker? And she said, oh, vice president of cereal. So
Oh my goodness.
like it's literally right in her chart.
Yeah. I mean, it
So
doesn't have to be an asteroid goddess. I have a former business partner who I founded a press with in 2014 who has the asteroid Jennifer conjunct his midheaven. And it's like, okay,
yes,
you were obviously going to do that with me.
yeah, the names are really big when you look up. So I mean, there's so bloody many of them. They're really hard to juggle practically in a consult. But, there are certain things, if somebody were to say, I'm thinking of the wine industry, I'll look at Bacchus, and 9 times out of 10, I kind of looked at charts of people I worked with where I at least knew their birthdays. And it was there, if you're a winemaker, it's Bacchus Sun. If I was in marketing, it was Bacchus Venus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good, so good. Okay, so let's say your coworkers get super jazzed and they say, Michelle, we want to learn astrology too. What books would you give to somebody who wants to know more about this art?
My whole goal is to create people who want to talk about astrology because I just want to talk about it all the time. So I will try to assess what's going to be the best chance of appealing to, depending on who's asking. So my analytical friends, I will recommend Cosmos and Psyche because he does such a good job of laying out the data. He makes a really great case and it's more academic. For my more like yoga therapist friends, I'll recommend Chani Nicholas because that whole book is geared to be a gateway,
You were
an
born for
entry.
this.
Yeah, You Were Born for This by Chani Nicholas. Sorry. And so, those are the two beginner books. And then assuming that they come back and say, okay, now I'm starting to, listen to podcasts, I would recommend Astrology and Illustrated guide I picked up at a Welsh bookstore last year. The town that has all the bookstores, you might know because you spent some time in Wales. And Kim Farnell is the editor. Great kind of encyclopedia, so that if someone in a podcast talks about declinations or solar directions or all these terms come at you, you can just open it up and it gives you 5 sentences on what it is. And you can follow the bouncing ball. And then I also had here Combination of Stellar Influences, Reinhold Ebertin. Not so much a beginner book, but assuming someone's then really excited about astrology, I would say it's a great way to think about things like midpoints and how influences intermingle. I think he really does a really great job of it. That's where it is, right? How the planets talk to each other, how our planets talk to each other. And I guess that's kind of where the winemaking comes in, because hanging out with winemakers for so many years, you just know that they're thinking of, that vineyard with that barrel and a little bit of this, if this isn't so strong. And so it's all about the alchemy of it.
Yeah, like a cosmic mixology.
Yeah. And I think that book really does a great job of laying that out. So I keep going back to it.
Wonderful. All right. So what are you working on and where can people find you?
I meet with clients. I work with startups, looking at their business charts, looking at, especially when a business is new and just getting set. I often work with a lot of young astrologers, peer groups, and people can find me at textrixmarketing.com, TEXTRIX marketing, all one word.com. And I have a Substack called The Hermit's Guide to Business, where I talk about business trends, how we can thrive, and how astrology is impacting that.
Oh, amazing. Well, it was so fun speaking with you today. And
Yes,
I'm
thank you,
just
Jenn.
completely turned on by your book selections. So I might want to land in that island with you for a moment and be in a book club with you.
I'll bring the sparkling wine. We'll have a blast.
There we go. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Within Orb. If you loved this episode, share it with your friends, give it 5 stars, leave a comment. In Spotify, you can do that now. To learn more about the CAELi Institute and perhaps become a member or take a lab that we teach, please go to CAELi.institute. That's CAELi.institute. Thanks again to the E-Block Band for providing our intro and outro music, and also to Jen Brown of JJ Boots Productions for being an excellent producer. If you would like to have a podcast be edited like Within Orb, reach out to Jen. This is Jenn Zahrt, signing off for now. See you next week.